Welcome back to another episode of Not Your Typical Podcast. I have my top-rated guest here with us again. This is my husband, Jonathan.
Hey, everybody.
If you watched our original episode, you'll know that it was loaded with marriage tips, do's and don'ts. And we just recently hosted a group of single guys here, and all they wanted to know was talk to us about dating tips.
Yes.
So we decided we're going to bring you a fabulous episode all about dating, do's and don'ts in the Jewish world. There are so many knowledgeable professionals and talented experts in the world in every field. I'm neither a professional nor an expert in any field. And that's exactly why this podcast has the title it does. I'm Charlene Aminoff, and this is Not Your Typical Podcast.
But before we begin, if anyone saw our last episode, I would like to make a public apology. So I brought you a little gift.
Oh.
If you watch it, you'll understand, guys.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
You are forgiven.
I am forgiven.
Publicly.
Yes.
In front of the masses. This will make a lot more sense to you if you watched the first episode. Thank you, Jonathan.
My pleasure.
Very, very kind of you. This episode is dedicated L'ilui Nishmat Miriam, Sarah, Bat, Yaakov, Moshe. It should be a tremendous zechut for the entire family and aliyah for your neshama. Bezrat Hashem, we should all be zochet to have
Amen.
Mashiach very, very soon. So, Jonathan,
Yes.
let's discuss with our friends. What are some very...
You're very pretty.
Yeah, that's so nice. Thank you.
Brownie points.
It's so nice. Oh, you know what? Compliments.
Yeah,
Let's talk about
There
compliments.
you go. Compliments, yes.
I think one of the most undervalued points in relationships is complimenting one another.
True.
And I know that maybe when people start dating... it's a
Sincere
little bit-
compliments.
Right,
They're
sincere
sincere,
compliments.
yeah.
But when people start dating, what do you advise? If you wanted to just come right out and say, guys, if you're listening to this will help make all of your future dates a little bit easier and more fun. What would you say? I know that I'm going to talk about compliments and appreciation, but I want to know from your perspective, what do you think?
So, dating. I think dating, first of all, entails preparation. Think of, you always want to break the ice, maybe prepare some really good jokes to keep the conversation flow going. Not the usual, like, hi, where are you from? How many siblings do you have?
Well, that's important too. I mean, you can't not ask.
Yeah, but none of the, make it interesting. Not just like the usual back and forth. How many siblings? What do you do? What shul you daven at? You want to really get to know the person.
So less interview style,
Yes.
more interpersonal schmoozing.
Right. You want to hopefully have that person share in your same hobbies or interests. So I personally am not a big believer of a dinner on the first date.
Why?
Because
I love food.
I know you love food.
I'm a
That's
foodie.
why on our third day I took you to all you can eat Dougies. Remember that?
Oh my gosh!
I was testing you out.
Dougies. I passed that.
You did pass it out.
I ate more than
you
you
held
did.
that burger, that monster burger in your hand, and the poppers. That was really great. But no, when you go on a first date and it's dinner, I just feel it's a little claustrophobic, and it's like a job interview back and forth, and you can't be yourself. She can't really eat because she has to look like a lady, and the conversation. I
didn't care about looking like a lady. I was scarfing down burgers and
I think the first date should be like something you're interested in. Like I love like Dave and Buster's, or if you remember what did we do on our first date? Where did I take you?
Shooting range.
Shooting range.
All right, that's not for everybody.
No, right, but if you have an interest, something that you really like to do, see if she'll be interested in it, and if she is, then maybe you're already halfway there. You have same common interests.
Okay, so let's back up a little bit. Let's say you are interested in a girl, or you are read a shidduch that looks good, or people want to set you up with somebody. What, if you looked at the resume, what would you say, oh no, this is a deal breaker?
I don't think the resume tells you much.
Right.
It's just where they're from and the family. I'm a very, very, I remember I was going to bring this up later on, but I'm going to jump to it now. I think the most important thing that you get from a shidduch resume is compatibility, yichus. Like make sure like the families are in sync,
in the same genre. Yeah, makes sense, right?
Because it's already hard enough in today's day and age to keep a marriage together. But if you come in and the values are the same, and maybe the religious level is the same, and the minhagim are the same, and just this commonality, then it makes it a lot easier.
Right. I think to some extent, common denominators will just build a stronger foundation for a relationship. But then how do you reconcile the whole concept of opposites attract? Is that more of a personality thing?
That's personality, one-on-one. I'm talking about the background.
Because we're opposites.
Total opposites.
100%
Everything
opposite.
we're opposite. We're so opposite in everything.
Which is
I
great.
can go down the list.
Even our food,
You like well done. I don't like well done.
whatever is the reject on my plate
love.
is his prime pickings, and whatever he
Like
rejects
I
on his plate,
hate the
what I
crust.
love.
I hate the crust on a pizza.
My favorite part.
I like the first bite. You don't like the first
Right.
bite. You know?
I like my tzadik very, very burnt.
No.
You like it. You like it soggy.
No.
I got it.
Right.
But
I like my drinks ice cold. You're like, no, I can't drink ice cold.
I need room temperature water. So okay,
And listen, let's keep going. I go sleep early. You go sleep when I wake up. Usually, I
Sometimes-
usually get up at like 5:30. She's going to sleep at 5:30.
right. But we did have a lot
I dress
in
like
common.
a diva. You
And I'm
dress-
very chill. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I think though when we were set up, we should talk about how we were set up. You know why?
No.
Yes. Yeah.
No.
I think I want to talk about it.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not cutting this out of the video. We're gonna play it.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about this.
But guys, very important thing on a date: do not have your phone on a date.
Oh yeah. By the way, let's show them. Let's show them. You know what's really annoying?
just watching my stocks.
When we're out to dinner, I'm gonna show you. When we're at dinner and this is out, if we can get a zoom in over there.
No.
When that's out, that's annoying.
Yeah,
Don't
phone
have
away.
your phone out on a date, okay? That should be rule number one. If you're
Right.
going on a date, undivided attention, one-on-one.
True.
I spoke about this and we were jumping around because we're just so excited to we don't get too much time to hang out with each other anymore. So this is exciting. Compliments, for me, very important. I know I'm taking you back to the first step, but I think even when, you open the door for a girl, which guys, you should be opening the doors for a girl.
That's
You
all
have to
standard.
say,
That's all standard. Opening door, being nice to the
It's-
waiter, being a big tipper.
Oh,
that's
we're
an
gonna
easy
talk about
checklist.
that.
You know,
That's-
everyone, if a guy doesn't do that stuff, then he's a real moron because everyone knows a girl will be impressed if he tips well or if he's nice to the waiter, which you should be.
Derech Eretz,
Derech
Kadma
Eretz.
LaTorah. You
So-
want to be, if you're a mensch, it shows in the way you treat people, the wait staff. I think that's very important. We're going to get to that
Yeah.
later. But even just typical compliments, like, I was very impressed with your resume, or, people have spoken very highly about you, or that's a nice shirt. That's a nice top. Oh, thank you for holding the door open. Just these are complimentary terms and words.
I
It's
remember I opened the door
endearing.
for you, then you leaned over and opened the door for me on our first date.
Probably.
Yeah.
I think everybody wants to know how we got together. So I'm gonna share.
Okay.
Chime in.
Take it away.
Chime in.
I'll just look at my stock.
So yeah, you could look at
Yeah.
your stocks. Okay, so we're both Persian. We're from the Mashadi community, and we were both in shul Shari Tova. Remember Shari Tova back in the day?
Oh, you're going that far back?
Yeah, I'm going that far back. And
Oh, wow. Okay.
our
This could
Rav
take
at
a
the
while.
time approached Jonathan and said, what do you think about that girl? She's such a nice girl, good family, Baruch Hashem. And Jonathan said, yeah, I would like to learn a little more about her. They didn't realize that I was a little underage. I was a little young. I was hanging out with the older girls. I looked older, I acted older. So I think Jonathan thought I was 18. I wasn't. I was almost 16. And you walked
like a
over with
stock
the
by
Rav,
Rav.
and the Rav says, Charlene Levy, I'd like to introduce you to this wonderful bacher. His name is Jonathan Aminoff. Back in the day, by the way, this is kind of how, 22 years ago, this is how it would go. People would just introduce you, and the rest is history. And then I looked at you both, and I was like, can I help you? What on earth is happening here? Anyway, that didn't work out. I was very
Fast
young.
forward.
Fast forward a few years. We were both doing our own thing. Our friends kept telling us, you guys have to go out on one date. You have to go out on one date. His best friend had married my best friend, and they kept trying to set us up.
That's a horrible date.
It was the worst
Worst
date
Yeah.
of history,
Yeah, I remember
of
that.
life.
I remember
Guinness
that.
Book of World Records,
Yeah.
worst date ever.
Oh,
Jonathan,
do you think I didn't like my beard now? Last time I didn't have a beard.
what?
Last time I didn't have a beard. Do you think they like
That was a very random
wondering.
ADD thought.
I know I am ADD sometimes.
He's ADD.
Yeah.
Your beard is fine.
Thanks.
Going back to the story, he picks me up where I'm 17 and a half, 18. I just graduated high school, and it was our first date. And his friends, which shall remain nameless, had prepped him very poorly and told him, Jonathan, don't show interest in Charlene because that's going to make her not be interested in you. Play hard to get. This guy played hard to get in the wrongest, weirdest, strangest way possible.
Right.
So he was not very kind. You were not very chivalrous.
I just wasn't, I wasn't warm.
He wore white tube socks with Shabbat shoes.
was the winter time. It was cold.
That's not
It was
not
it was
an
freezing
excuse.
cold in New York City. It was January.
Horrible.
I know that day did not
Horrible.
go well.
Worst date of life.
Yeah.
Anyway, we came home from that date. It was the worst date of life. I was like, it was worse than pulling teeth.
What did your mom say when you walked through the door?
Okay, so my mom was very excited about me going out on a date with him because she was your biggest fan from back in the day.
And vice versa.
Jonathan was
I'll get to that
18
later.
years old when he started Hatzalah. He's Baruch Hashem, he's now turning 50. So he's been in Hatzalah for a long time. And when he came, in Farsi they say chastegari, when he came to court me and to ask my family if he can date me, my parents love the fact that he's a good frum boy, amazing family, kind, chesedic, and very involved in Hatzalah, total chesed. So they said, you must go out with him. He's an amazing guy. And honestly, I'm very, very short and he's very, very tall. So that was definitely a big pro for him as well. We went on that date. I came home.
Yeah.
My mom was sitting on the chair by the front door saying Tehillim, and she was so excited. I walked in and she quickly sat up. She's like, Shar, how was it? How was it? I said, Mommy, I promise you, if he was the last man on earth, I wouldn't marry him.
You did Hatarat Nedarim on that.
I
You did
did Hatarat Nedarim at our engagement party.
Yeah, I remember that.
Okay?
Yeah.
I had to sit in front of a beis din, and they had to make me do Hatarat Nedarim because I realized I was wrong. But anyway, so that happened. And then fast forward, how long was it? Like a year and a half after our first date? About a year and a half.
Yeah, year and a half, 2 years, yeah.
My life took me in a different direction. His life took him in a different direction. And then the craziest thing happened.
Yeah.
The community had a very big tragedy. And there was a man that went missing in Texas. And the community made an announcement. The Rebbeim and my father, who's on the board,
Right.
the shul board, they made announcements that they're looking for volunteers to go down to Texas to search for this man. And I was busy with somebody else. He was busy with somebody else. And I remember we had a Tehillim reading at a friend's house. And all of a sudden, somebody walked into the room and said, guys, did you hear who volunteered to go down for the search and rescue mission? Jonathan Aminoff. I can almost say, I promise, a light bulb went off over my head. I was like, wait a minute. Jonathan Aminoff went down to Texas to look for this man? Wait a minute. That's the kind of man I want to be the father of my children. And I called my mom, called my dad, and I said, I think I made the biggest mistake. Like, he's all about chesed. He's so selfless. Okay, so what? He was wearing white socks. So what? He sat with his back to me the entire...
Yeah, I'm wearing white socks
He's
right now.
still wearing white socks.
I'm still wearing some now.
So much for that. He's still wearing white socks. But I called my parents, and they were like, well, like, too late. Anyway, unfortunately, the tragedy ended tragically. The guy was murdered. But Jonathan came back from that. And there was a levaya, and I think I approached you at the levaya, and I actually said to you, I'm so sorry for what you've been through, but I'm here if you want to talk. AKA, I was kicking myself because I felt so badly about how it ended.
Then in 3 months, we went on
and then that
60 dates.
That night you called, and we started dating.
Right.
We did not miss a single night out.
We started dating like February 1st, and we got engaged
May 13th.
May 13th.
May 13th you proposed.
So in 3 months, I literally think we went out 60 times.
I know.
I was exhausted.
But what's the point of all this? First of all, the crazy part about this is that man, alav hashalom, that tzaddik who was killed, ended up, he was our shadchan. His son ended up marrying my niece. So that was like the most beautiful, beautiful wedding, emotional, wonderful union. But from that message, just from our dating story, I want to say that you have no idea how far chesed goes. And when a person is involved in a chesed organization such as Hatzalah or Chevra Kadisha, Achiezer, Shomrim, whatever, it really makes a big difference for a woman, for a girl.
Chesed attracts chesed.
Chesed attracts.
I think statistically, people that volunteer at Camp Hask, there's so many engagements at the end of the summer for people that work at Camp Hask because there's such good people that work there. They're angels. So these people doing chesed, Hashem shows them chesed.
So, you know what? This brings me to a beautiful topic. I like to speak about this often. You may have heard this, so forgive me if it's redundant, but the word v'natnu, and they gave, is, if you look at the way it's spelled in Hebrew, it's a palindrome. It's spelled the same way forward as it is backward. So this is almost like Hashem giving us a sign that if we give to His children, Hashem will always give to us. So I think when it comes to dating,
Remember that Rav Gav story that we saw last week?
Yes.
Remember?
Oh my goodness.
This Rav Gav has an amazing story. You should go check it out on YouTube. He said a story that this couple couldn't have kids, so they adopted 4 kids. They didn't want to, but they found out they were siblings. They adopted 4 kids, and
not at the same time.
Not at the same time.
Scattered.
The wife was hesitant about adopting the 4th one, and her husband said why? Because she said she's pregnant with triplets after they adopted 4 kids. And then last week, Rav Gav said they made a wedding for their 4th biological child.
I was crying
they adopted 4 kids,
when we saw the story.
And then after they adopted, they had 4 kids, and they just made a wedding for their 4th.
Because she gave to Hashem's children in need.
Great
Hashem gave to her.
Gav.
So if you are listening and you're in the dating scene and you're wondering, why are things not going my way? What can I do to expedite the process? I think we're both in agreement. Get involved with more chesed, however you can.
Something that you're really passionate about.
Right, something you love, something that speaks to you. You know, Hatzalah is the love of your life. So that was what made you...
Tomchei Shabbos, Chaverim, Shomrim. There's so many great organizations. Do something that you're really passionate about.
RCCS, Ezem Etzion, anything. I agree. I think that is a big, big point. So, friends, you can definitely up the, what would you say? Increase your...
chances.
Increase your appeal to the masses by just delving into more chesed, because it's Hashem will give back to you if you give to others. So that's number 1. Okay, so red flags. Red flags when you're on a date.
Besides White Sox?
Besides White Sox, because that clearly didn't do much.
It's so hard because on a date, you're putting your best foot forward, but sometimes not even genuine. Like I really feel that on a first date, take them someplace that show them your interests. Do something that you like, because then you'll see if you're attracted to each other. You know.
Chemistry is very important.
Yeah. Dinners are. I don't know.
We differ.
Yeah, we differ.
We differ on that. I think dinners on a date are great because I'm a foodie. I love to eat. I don't
Yes.
live to. I don't eat to live. I
you
live to eat. So as long as the person on the other side of the table doesn't mind me stuffing my face the whole time, I'm totally fine with that. But Jonathan thinks that being more active and showing your more personal side, your more, what really makes you is more advisable, right? Okay. Differing opinions, but I get that. Wait, we had some questions submitted to us. Let's see. Anything? You wanted to say something before. Do you remember what that was?
Oh, very important. Guys, very, very important. What to look for in a girl. I know some
That's loaded. Ooh, if you're tuning in right now, that's a good one.
Yeah, so I know everyone says, of course, a good girl should be pretty, frum, charitable. My number one rule, and pay attention, young man, my number one rule is mother-in-law. Mother-in-law.
I hope my mom is watching
Yes.
this.
If you have a good mother-in-law, you're set. You're set for the best marriage of your life. And vice versa. If you have a bad mother-in-law, no matter how amazing the girl is, if you have a bad mother-in-law that you can't click with, no. That's why they have the joke. What's the difference between in-laws and outlaws? Outlaws are wanted. That's the joke. But I can give you a story firsthand how amazing my mother-in-law is.
I bet I know what story you're going to say.
Yeah, that's a classic
Heinz
story.
ketchup.
Heinz ketchup.
Oh, this is such a good story.
So my mother-in-law loves hosting people, loves having the whole family together.
Look at me. Talk to me. Lean to me.
Okay, my wonderful mother-in-law.
And by the way, communication is key.
Yes.
By the way, big thing in dating, communication. So many times girls will say to me, I know we went out, but like, I didn't feel comfortable to say this, and I was like, no, you have to say everything in a nice way.
So you gotta be prepped a little with some interesting conversation, interesting stories.
You can communicate. You could be like, it makes me happy when you face me, when you speak.
Okay.
It makes me happy when you face me, when you speak, and it makes me so happy when you bring me coffee.
Yes.
Thank you.
So, it was like, I think 2 days after Pesach, and the whole mishpacha all came back from wherever they were.
Pesach went out Wednesday night. It was Friday night. It was Shabbat. No.
No, it was a barbecue.
It was a barbecue. Pesach went out. Shabbat, it was a Sunday night.
Right. So my mother, she uses food to attract everyone to the house, which works.
Food is her love language.
Right. So it was about 40, 50 people in that house. Your mom made this amazing barbecue, and it's literally right after Pesach. And we're sitting at the table, and I was preparing my hamburger, and I wanted ketchup. And you sit actually closer to the kitchen than I do. So I asked you, Shar, and I was like really making this big burger, and I was like, Shar, is there any ketchup by any chance? She said, sure. You went to the kitchen, and your mom is still turning over from Pesach to Chametz, and you came back, and what did you bring? Pesach ketchup.
Pesach ketchup.
Is there anything worse in the world than Pesach ketchup?
Pesach ketchup is the equivalent of Sphera music.
Yeah.
Right? Am I right?
It's probably the worst thing in the world.
So bad.
No disrespect to the companies, but
no offense.
But Pesach ketchup.
Pesach ketchup is
Pesach ketchup.
Horrible.
So what did you?
But it works for 8 days.
Right.
But you will like the same thing with Sphera music. It works for 34 days. We hold Lad Ba'omer. For 34 days, you tolerate it, but the second you can have regular ketchup, you're never touching that again, right?
Yeah, it goes with the housekeeper.
100%.
So it was balagan. There was like 40, 50 people in your mom's house, the grandkids. I run around crazy. Everyone's doing their thing, and you brought out the Pesach ketchup in front of me. And what did I do?
You didn't say anything.
I didn't say anything. I did nothing.
You just looked at it, and you didn't use it.
I didn't flinch, nothing. My mother-in-law is like a hawk. She watches all her son-in-laws to make sure they're eating properly and they have what they want. And I'm not touching that Pesach ketchup. All of a sudden, like 5 minutes later, everyone's like, "Where's Grandma? Where's Julia?" Oh, sorry, she just kicked me on the table. I have to face her. Where's Grandma? Where's Julia? And no one knows. And all of a sudden, the door opens, and my mother comes back in with a bag from the supermarket. She went out and bought Heinz ketchup for me.
Hey,
she picked up in the middle of this meal that I did not touch that Pesach ketchup, and she realized why. So in the middle of the meal, she ran out, got in her car, ran to the supermarket, bought a big bottle of Heinz ketchup, and brought it back and said, "Oh, I saw you didn't like it. Here." So guys, mother-in-law. Very important.
With that said, Hashem should bless my mother, Dina Bat Tamar, with continued refuot and yeshuot until Mashiach comes. What? I'll focus on you. I'm talking to the audience at this point.
Oh, okay.
But you're right. I should focus on you also. My mother was diagnosed with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma 12 years ago, and we're still waiting for the cure. So if you are listening to this, please have Dina Bat Tamar in mind. My mom is the best thing in the whole world. And Jonathan actually tells me almost daily,
yes,
I married you because of your mother, which is fine.
Yes.
It works. Okay, so a great mother-in-law is definitely very important.
A happy marriage.
Bezrat Hashem. Okay, we have some questions submitted over here from
and by the way, you
listeners.
have a good mother-in-law. Food, babysitting,
and even
covered.
just taking your side in
so
life
times,
issues or
so
disagreements.
Like
he always jokes. If right now we're sitting here in broad daylight, and if I'm looking at this and I'm saying, "Ugh, it's such a gorgeous day,"
it's snowing,
and my husband says it's night and it's snowing. If my mom were in the room, she'd look at me and she'd be like, "If your husband says it's night and it's snowing, it's night and it's snowing." So that's definitely true.
100%.
Okay, so what's the ideal midah to look for when dating? I think we both agreed chesed, someone who's kind. I remember growing up, we learned to analyze or to really pay attention to a boy in three ways: bekiso, bekoso, bekaso. So that really means that you want to see bekiso when he's spending. Is he going to be generous with a tip? Is he going to be charitable? Does he like to give? Is he a little stingy? So those are important things that I think if a guy is listening on, or even if a girl is listening on, that is something that we're trained to look out for. So definitely.
But we know that
you're on the generous side.
Know that you're trained to look for that, so we automatically
But not everyone does that.
Yeah, so if a guy really doesn't do it and he knows he's supposed to do it, then he's definitely no.
But right. So that's something that you guys have to really pay attention to.
Right.
And then bekoso is, sometimes if a guy drinks, we're not drinkers here.
We don't even have wine.
I know we're not.
Grape juice.
I have an alcohol station in my office. It's called the Remission Corner, and we have clients who walk in remission. We do make Lchaim, but we're not really into drinking. But girls have said to me, I'll go on a date or I'll see a guy and I notice that he's drinking and like he just becomes belligerent and unkind. So guys, I think that's a really big deal. Don't drink on a date. And if you're going to have a little bit of a Lchaim, just be a mensch. Conduct yourself in a nice way, because girls are trained to look at how you react when you have a little bit of alcohol.
Right.
Don't have alcohol. And beka'aso. This for me was the biggest deal. And thank you, Hashem. I married somebody who completely lacks the midah of anger. So do I. We're both angerless completely. But I think anger is the biggest red flag from everything that I've ever, spoken about with girls. And I think anger in a person is the worst midah. In fact, I spoke about this on a previous podcast, that the most amazing tefillah on Shabbat that we say once a week is Igeret HaRamban. And it was Ramban, before he died, he gave over to his son, almost like a manual on how to conduct his life. And the main point that he discusses is never lose your cool, never lose your temper. So would you call an angry person a red flag?
It's the worst.
It's the worst. So now how does one combat anger? Let's say somebody is just rage-filled and someone really struggles with anger.
Next.
Really?
Next.
Guys, that's a big deal.
Next.
Okay, but now...
If someone's like, all those other things you could work on, but anger is like...
Anger's a big deal.
Pass.
Don't get angry. If you have anger
Why
issues,
compromise?
work on your anger
Why compromise?
issues. Right.
Yeah.
We're both very anti-anger, Baruch Hashem. For someone who is single, what advice do you have for them? Pretty much everything we're discussing. I'm a big believer in davening, tefillah, hishtadlus. You do your due diligence. You pray and walk away, or let go and let God, all of those. I think that every person in the world has a zivug. We know that already. And sometimes it gets frustrating because you're in the dating scene or you're getting recommended people that you don't think are the right fit, and you get frustrated. I think you have to trust Hashem and you have to trust Hashem's timing, but you have to put in your hishtadlus. You have to do your due diligence. I think working on your midot, working on your personality.
You gotta be in it to win it. I think you gotta be out there. You gotta do chesed,
Go to all those,
shul.
go to shul, go to the events, go to the places that they tell you to go to meet and mingle, or, get together with all the shadchanim who know more about you. I think, put yourself out there. You got to kind of get a little bit out of your comfort zone if you want to, Bezrat Hashem, meet the special person. But I think my main advice to somebody who's single, people are attracted to happy vibes. Sometimes when the dating scene gets a little bit draining, people become bitter. And when they become bitter, it's a little bit hard to want to be in that vibe of like a more of a negative, bitter person. So I think if everybody who's listening to this, and if you're stuck in that rut, work on being more besimcha, because simcha attracts simcha. And I think even you one time said, you were like, to me, recently, we're married, Baruch Hashem, 21 years. You said to me, are you ever in a bad mood?
Yeah.
And I said, no, I'm not. And I think that's a fun thing to want to be around.
I think dating is like a job interview, and just like when you go to a job interview, you have to be prepared. You have to be prepared on a date. Have interesting stories, nice jokes. I know our son Zachary, what's he going to do on his dates? Magic tricks.
Everything.
Everything. He's going to do
play guitar, play the piano, sing,
magic tricks in front
play the violin, saxophone, do magic.
So you have to come with your A game, as they say.
Come with your A game.
Come prepared. Just don't sit there and play Jewish geography. That's
we
the
also
worst.
read recently in one of these newspapers over Shabbat, I think somebody was talking about how if you want to have a strong conversation on a date, don't ask questions that have a yes or no answer. Ask questions that lead into more engaging conversation, right? Like if I say to you, how many siblings do you have? One. Okay.
That's it.
Next. But if I say to you, tell me a little bit about your upbringing. See, that opened up a whole paragraph, a whole page of amazing conversation. Or tell me something about you that I don't know. These are interesting things where you're engaging the person, you're drawing them in, and it's not so much of a yes or no or one word answer. I think that's important also.
I think we have time. Are we out of time?
How's our timing?
There's no right or wrong. You've been going for around 30 minutes.
Woo!
Time flies when you're having fun.
Flies
It's like
when
a
you're
date.
having fun. This is a date. Anything else? What's the ideal meet to look for? Red flag. Have you spotted red flags when dating? Definitely. I went on a date before Jonathan with a guy who was very, very rude to the waitress. Very rude to the waitress. The waitress got the order a little bit wrong, and he was I guess he was trying to show that he's in control and powerful and taking care of the situation. And all I was looking for was like a kind mensch and good food. And he was so nasty to the waitress, and I was like, this is not for me.
It's not that hard thinking of a nice, fun thing to do on a date. It just takes a little bit of creativity. And with the internet out there, you can Google so many great ideas.
You can email Jonathan Aminoff at gmail.com for tips on where to go for dating. He is a great source of information and a wealth of...
And you'll have a good time. She'll hopefully have a good time. And then there's more of a chemistry there.
I'm putting your email on display for the world. Jonathan
Can I put
Aminoff.
you know what?
No.
Charlene's phone number is 516.
Anyway, we thank you for watching.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks for
It was a lot of
listening.
fun.
We dive in that every single person listening
Can we
on
know
should
date?
yes, of course, meet their ultimate zivug, soulmate, bekarov, very, very quickly and easily, with no pain and difficulty. If you're going to take away something from this, take away a few things. Get involved in more chesed. Lose the midah of anger. That is the biggest red flag, and it's a very big turnoff. And don't wear white socks, although even if you do, you still might end up with your true zivug anyway. Thanks for being here.
My pleasure.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
That was cute.
That was good.
That was awesome.
It went by so fast.
That was so good.
It went by so fast. I don't think we even got in.
Just change the show to have just you two talking.
I don't think we got even
You guys
to
have
deep.
such good chemistry.
I don't think we even got to deep part.
Living Lchaim.